Okay, everybody, very nice work on lesson 4. You've just learned one of the most important parts of the Bootstrap framework, which is the grid system. Remember that we can use the grid system to define our own layouts for different screen sizes. So our web pages will be responsive. For example, if we're on a mobile device, we may see components of our web page stack one on top of the other because the screen size is smaller, or if we're on a tablet, we may see our content stretch and present side by side. So we're going to be practicing using this grid system in this exercise. More specifically, what we're going to be doing is adding a little bit more structure to our portfolio project. We're also going to be building the showcase for the castle gallery page. All right, so the exercise is broken down into a few different parts. Okay, the first part is structure. Okay, so basically in that part, what we're doing is we're putting all of the content in one row. Remember that with Bootstrap, there's always going to be 12 columns, and we can specify how many columns each of the divs we create should take up. We can add content to the columns using rows. So we're gonna, in the homepage, put everything in one row. The title is gonna take up half of the grid, so it's gonna take up 6 columns, and then the links for the rest of the portfolio are gonna take up the other half. So that will also be 6 columns. So that's the structure part. Now for the style piece, that's going to be more of the visual components that you see here. We're gonna add this beautiful rainbow tie-dye blended image in the background, and then we're going to change the colors of each of the links, the backgrounds of those containers to the colors you see here. So the style has to do with the visual parts that you're looking at. And then finally, we're going to work on the castle gallery page. That's going to be 2 rows, 4 columns each, and these rows are supposed to showcase images of castles. So this is quite a bit. We're going to break it down as always. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before we can get started, there's a little bit of setup. As you know, we're working on this photo portfolio project throughout the Bootstrap unit. So we need to go back to what we've already done and copy it over to our current exercise. So first thing I'm going to do is copy over the code for the homepage. So it says to go to the second portfolio assignment. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and backtrack down here. I'm going to go back to lesson 3. We're currently on lesson 4. So over here, I'm going to right click and open this up in a new tab. This way, I'm not going to lose my current place and I can just quickly grab the code I need. So the index page is the first page I want to copy over, and I can just literally grab it all, Control C, and then go back here and Control V. All right. I always run my code just to make sure it's working. Okay, you might want to hit a new window. This looks good. Okay, it's plain right now. As you saw in the exercise preview, we're about to make this a lot more interesting and a lot more visually beautiful. Okay, so that's the home page. We also need to copy the code from the gallery page. They give you the exact URL you can go to. So I'm just going to copy that and enter. Okay, this is what you should be doing on your side as well. It's literally in that same window that we were just in. So either way, you could stay where you were at, or you can use the link they gave you. So over in Gallery HTML, this was the piece that we created in the last lesson that had the 4 different gallery buttons. So we want to paste that here. Okay, so if I click on the galleries link, I should see that this has all of the different galleries that we outlined last time. Okay, just testing my code. This is good web design practice. And then finally, we want that style sheet. Okay, that has all the rules. That's kind of powering what our web page looks like. So really important. We cannot forget that. So I think that's the last piece we'll need. Castle Gallery is brand new. We're working on that in this exercise. So we should be good to go. Once more, I'm going to run my code on the home page, open it up in a new tab. Okay, you can see some of the CSS is applying now. Again, I'm going to check my galleries page is working. Looks beautiful. Okay, so that's pretty much it for setup. It's quite a bit there, but just take it little by little. Again, you can use the bar down here to backtrack. We're currently on lesson 4, so you want to go back to lesson 3 and grab that photo portfolio code for the index page, the gallery page, and the style sheet. Okay, let's head over to the exercise and let's start attacking these pieces here, starting with structure. Okay, so again, beginning with the structure, we're mainly working on the home page here. We want to start by wrapping the title and the 3 links in a single row. Remember that, again, the Bootstrap grid system is made up of 12 columns. You kind of have to visualize those 12 columns going across the page. And the way that we add content to that grid system is in or by using rows. So we're going to take up all 12 columns by putting everything in a single row. So right under or right above the title, which is Kids Portfolio, I'm going to go ahead and tab in, and I'm going to create a div with the class equal to row. And this is basically saying make a row, and I want to put everything inside of that row. So I'm going to go ahead and tab in the content that I'm putting in my row, and I'm going to close that div, make sure that div container is closed. Next, I want to put the title in, I want the title to take up 6 columns, so 6 out of the 12. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap the title, just the title, in its own div, and this one is going to have a class equal to call, which stands for column, SM, which stands for small. This is small devices. And we want it to take up 6 columns, so -6. Okay. Again, I only want the title in that, so I'm going to go ahead and close that div tag right underneath. So we've taken up 6 columns in our first row. That leaves us with 6 more. We have 3 links. They're each going to go in 2 columns each. So that would take up the remaining 6 columns, okay? Slightly just a little bit of math, but it's not too bad. So the first link, which is the galleries link, I'm going to wrap it in a class equal to call SM2. Oops, forgot that quote. Okay, we got to be careful with our syntax here. And I'm going to close that div container right here. All right, so I'm going to make sure I tab that in so that my galleries link sits inside, and I just trying to make it a little bit more readable. Now this is going to basically be the same for the remainder of the links, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to the remainder of my page. Okay, so this is basically saying each of my links, they're going to take up 2 columns each, so that makes 2, 4, 6. We took 6 columns up here for the title, and now we have 6 in total down here. So now my first row, all 12 columns in the grid have been filled up. Okay, so far so good. The last part is we also want to add the following classes to our links. Okay, so the first link is going to have class equal to front nav1, then it's nav2, nav3. So I'm also going to go ahead and just add that in. Okay, I can put that after the column information. And I'm just copying and pasting. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's run it, see if we can tell or notice any differences. Okay, I'm going to hit CHTML in new window. And there you go. Everything is in one row. The title is taking up 6 columns. And the gallery, pricing, and contact links are taking up 2 columns each for a total of 6 columns. So now we have utilized the entire Bootstrap grid system. This will present side by side on small devices and larger, and then on anything smaller, such as an extra small device like this viewer that we're noticing or using here, it's going to stack one on top of the other. So this is why you don't see the same layout in this view, because this screen is smaller than a small device. So on small devices and larger, the content will present side by side, and on extra small devices, it will stack. This is part of the beauty of Bootstrap. So really nice work. That is the structure part. We're ready to move on and add some style. I'm really excited to get some color in here. So save your work and let's work on style. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is where we actually add some color and change the, plain gray and black site that we have going on so far. This is going to be mostly in the style sheet, so let's go over to style CSS. First thing we want to do, give the class cover this background image. This is a public domain picture. It's this rainbow swirly background, really nice. We want that to be the background for the entire first row. And if you go back and look at the home page, remember in a prior exercise, we already gave the entire body, the main container, the class cover. So once we apply that to the cover rule, it's going to fill in with that beautiful image. Okay, so again, we are going to do background dash image, and we are going to set it to the URL equal to this. Okay, so that should be what we need to get the picture showing. Let me make sure I just have a semicolon before I paste that in. And then we want to add the attribute background size and give it the value cover. So let's go ahead and add in background size and give it the attribute of cover. Okay, let's save this. Let's refresh our page and see what we get. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so very nice. There's some clashing going on with the link colors, right? They get lost in this rainbow swirl. So we're going to go ahead and work on that next. Okay, first, beginning with the title. We want the title to be white font color, 50 pixel margin on all sides, and we're going to use special CSS selectors to grab it. We want to do it with the for the div with the class front logo. So that's something we forgot to do in the structured part. Let's go back, and in the div that is holding the title, I'm just going to go past the column information and I'm going to add in front logo for the class. This was something I skipped by mistake. Okay, so now I can go ahead and write a rule for that front logo class, right? I can go back to CSS. I don't have a rule for it yet, so I'll put it over here under homepage styles since that is in the homepage. We're going to keep our style sheet organized, and we're going to start with the selector, front logo. Okay, now we're telling this selector that we want the color of the text to be white, so that's just color white, easy. We already know how to do that. And a 50 pixel margin on all sides. Oh, by the way, to make that special selector, we are basically saying front logo plus H1. Okay, this is saying H1 tags that come directly after my front logo class. Okay, then margin, to make it 50 pixels all the way around, it's just 50 px. And that should be enough for the title. So again, I'm going to save it. I'm going to test it. And hopefully my title is now presenting correctly. Okay, it's not. I'm going to try without the plus sign and just save it. Going to refresh. Okay, so it looks like we can just grab the H1 that is inside of the front logo with dot front logo H1. Okay, so this is a lot better. Notice the margin pushes it away from the edge of the container, so it's a little easier to spot, and then obviously making it white is a better contrast than the gray. Let's work on the links for the pages now, since those are definitely hard to read, and we also want to make them even with the title. Okay, so far, so good. So that is this part here. Next, create a CSS rule that selects everything with the class call-sm2 that is inside of a div with the class cover. So similar to the selector above, dot cover, and we want everything that is call sm-2. We want this to have a height of 200, margin of 50, 0. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy paste those into my style sheet here, and work on the color piece, and then go back and test it. So finally, we're going to color in the links. We want this maroon, this gray, and this purple color. Remember, we have front nav classes from our index page, and we're going to go ahead and just use the colors that we see here. So for dot front nav 1, I want the background color property to be set to this color. And I'm basically going to repeat this for my other style rules. Okay, I'm just going to change the class name because they're different, and the colors as well because they're also different. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that last color in. I think we have everything we need now. Finally, let's go ahead and test our style, and this is what it should look like. So let's see what we get. Beautiful. Okay. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited. This looks really professional, really simple and clean, and didn't take really that much code. So again, take your time, move slowly. This is it for style. We are ready to move on to the last and final part of this exercise, which is working on the castle gallery. Really nice work so far, everyone. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the castle gallery.html page. Right now, if we go there, it's all blank. We're going to use our knowledge of Bootstrap to build this page. So here's a preview. Okay, we are going to create a container. It's going to have 2 rows. Every row is going to have 4 columns. We know that Bootstrap has 12 columns in total. So each of these images will take up 3 columns, right? 12 divided by 4. Just like I mentioned, there's a little math with Bootstrap, but not bad. Okay, so each of these little images are going to be 200 by 200 pixels. They're going to take up 3 columns each for a total of 12. And we're also going to add some special classes like image-rounded so that our images have like this nice rounded rectangular shape. And then above the images, we're going to create another div with the class container fluid, and it's going to have links to the homepage and the gallery so we can move throughout the site and go back home if we need to. All right, so the page is going to look something like this, just with actual pictures. Now I'm noticing that we weren't given any pictures, so I went ahead and searched castles on publicdomainpictures.net. Remember, this is a public repository of images that you can use without any sort of permission required. And I'm going to use some of the castle images on here for the project. Okay, so just have fun with it. You can use public domain pictures as well. Once we get to the pictures part, I'll show you how to add them in. Okay, so we're going to create a container. That's the first thing. Remember, the container is what makes the Bootstrap pages responsive. It's like one of the most powerful parts of Bootstrap. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a container. I'll just do class equals container, and then I will make sure I close my div as well. Okay, so this is going to hold basically everything in my castle gallery page. Now, we need 2 rows, so I'm also going to create 2 rows. You can add as many rows to your grid as you want. In the home page, we put everything in 1 row, but in reality, you can have as many rows as you want. Your page can keep going on and on. So to create the row, it's div class equals row. And we need 2 of these. So I'm going to copy and paste this row. And I will put this down here. Okay, now inside of my row, I'm going to start creating my images. Okay, so we are going to start with the first column. So in row 1, column 1. Okay, so I'm going to create a div to make that column, and it's going to be a small column. So call -sm, and I already mentioned this should be 3 columns wide. Okay, so 3, 6, 9, 12. This will make up all of the images in the row. Okay, so the first column, and we also want to give it that image-rounded class so that our images have this nice rounded corner feature. Okay, so this is going to be the placeholder for image 1. So I'm also going to put an image tag in here just so later on all I need to do is just paste my image in, and then I'll close the div container. Okay, so there goes my first image placeholder. I need 4 images in this row, so as you probably already guessed, I'm just gonna copy this placeholder and paste it 3 more times. Okay, now my second row is gonna be set up exactly the same, so I can just copy all of that and I'll tab in here just for readability and I'll paste it in as well. Okay, so that should be the basic structure of the gallery. Above the container with the images, add in another div with the class container fluid, and then inside of this div, we're going to put the links to the homepage and the galleries page. So I'm going to go above my existing container and create another one with the class equal to container fluid. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the links. So I will say home and galleries. Okay, I'll mark these up as H1 tags first. And then I'll go back and mark them up with the link. So this is going to go to index.html. Remember that anchor tags are two-sided, so you'll need to close that as well. Okay, and I'll do the same thing for my galleries page. I'll mark it up in an H1 tag, and then I will also mark it up. Oh, sorry, I want to move that tag to the right place. And then I'll also mark it up with the anchor tag. So href equals galleries.html, and then I'll close my anchor tag on the other side. Okay, so just make sure you're nesting in the proper order. Put my H1 tags inside of the anchor tags. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's go to our page and let's click on galleries. Let's make sure we refresh that before we do so. And then we'll go down to castles and hopefully, let's make sure actually on the galleries page that we're linking to the right page, castlegallery.html. Okay, I see now why. In my gallery page, the last time we set this up, we had everything perfect, just forgot that equal sign for my href attribute. Okay, so even I make mistakes. Sometimes you just got to go line by line and find it. So we had the correct page set up, but we just forgot that equal sign. So again, I'm going to save this. If I click on, refresh this and click on castles now, I should be able to go to castles, the castle gallery page. So this is what we just set up. Looks great. The only thing that's missing are the images of the castles. So I'm excited to put that in and see what this looks like. Okay, so back in my castle gallery page, I am going to start putting images into the source attribute. So starting with my first image, I'm going to find one here. Again, I just went to publicdomainpictures.net and I searched up castles. So I'm going to select, this one looks pretty nice shot. I'm going to open it up. If I right click, remember, just copy image address and I can go over here and I can paste that in. Okay, I'm going to want to do that for a few more images. Okay, so find ones that you think look good that you would want to add in the gallery. Okay, so maybe she wants to showcase, her black and white photography. So we'll do a black and white shot, copy image address, paste it in, and we're doing this for the entire gallery. Okay, so that does it for row 1. Let's save that. Let's go back over to our castles page. Let's refresh it and see what our images look like. Okay, so we got all 4 images. They're definitely in one row, but they're not appearing how they should be exactly because the sizes are probably way too large. So let's go into the CSS and let's fix that. We're not given any instructions on that explicitly here. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to CSS and create my own rule for that. So the basic styles, and I'm going to go ahead and create another comment that's basically going to say castle gallery rules. Again, we want to keep our CSS nice and neat, organize our rules here. So I'm going to say anything that's an image should be width 200 pixels by height 200 pixels. Okay, let's save this. Let's refresh our page and see if we get a better output. Way better. Okay, so you get the idea. Let's keep going. Let's finish up the gallery and get the second row filled in. Okay, so that wraps up all 4 images. Let's do one final refresh. Let's make sure everything is showing up properly. And wonderful. Okay, so this looks really, really good. Okay, you may be thinking, okay, we definitely don't want these images attached to one another, so we can fix that with a simple margin. We can give it a bottom margin so that the images at the top, again, have some space from the images at the bottom. So back in the CSS, I will just go back to my image rule and I'll add a margin bottom of maybe 50 pixels. That could be too much, but let's test it out and see. Okay, wonderful. Ladies, gentlemen, this looks great to me. If you got this far, really nice work. We finished up the Castle Gallery page. We've made our home page look way more exciting by adding in this background image. We gave each of the links a different section and we added some grids to this page to give it a little bit more structure. Very, very nice work. This was not easy. If you got this far, you should be really impressed and proud of yourself. This wraps up lesson 4, the Bootstrap grid system. I will see you all in lesson 5. And as always, if you have any questions, please leave it in a comment. I'm glad to help. Really nice work. See you in lesson 5.